So we were on a family walk this morning, and we were discussing podcast topics.
And we came upon the discussion of warts. How to live with them, how to move past them.
How to get rid of them.
And how to get rid of them. Let's talk about the warts in our lives and what we can do about it.
Mama Says Namaste. Mama Says Namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama Says Namaste.
So when Ashley and I were dating and kind of getting to know each other, we would share kind of like, these were things that I was really embarrassed about when I was a kid. And we discovered that we both shared a similar embarrassment with having obvious warts.
Right. Oh, yeah. I had wart on my thumb that would drive me crazy, and it was like it seemed to be like an extra finger sticking out there, and so I was always so paranoid about it. And it's like as soon as I would get rid of one wart, there'd be another wart that would pop up somewhere, and on my knees.
On your knees too, and I had a giant wart on the inside of my right palm, and it was so big, I thought it was like another hand that stuck out of my hand, and I didn't want to even raise my hand in class because I was afraid that somebody would see that wart and make fun of me. And I remember, just doing all kinds of things to try to figure out how to get rid of these things. And, you can put acid on them. You can burn.
Cut them out. Oh, my gosh. I would cut them out. I would
we
do
won't
so
get
much
into,
damage.
We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But you can burn them with where they put a real cold frozen piece of something or other and stick it on that wart, and it hurts. You can feel it go all the way down the root, and then it kind of rots and dies, and you got this big hole in your hand.
You're getting on my case for being descriptive?
Well,
Come on.
But it's just one of those things that was like surprisingly. I think a lot of people struggle with those warts, those things, and it doesn't have to be an actual wart, but it can be those things that we're really embarrassed about,
Well, yeah, and we were talking about this quite literally with our girls today because we were sitting around and Jules and Ellie were talking about how grateful, actually all three of them were talking about how grateful they were they didn't have warts anymore, because Ellie had big warts on both of her knees, and it was an embarrassment for her, and she struggled with them for a while, and as soon as she got over that, then Jules got warts on her knees, and she was dealing with the same thing, and we were talking about navigating that. And
we would help them navigate because they would go to things like gymnastics, and kids would tease them over like, "Oh, what are those things on your knees?" Like, well, they're warts, I got them. And I tried to cut them off and bite them off and burn them off and everything else, but they're kids, but that didn't work. And so we helped her navigate just kind of the fact that we have to live with these warts.
Well, and Ellie said something pretty profound, and that's kind of why we were like, ooh, we should do a podcast on this. Do you remember what she said?
Well, what Ellie said was I don't know if it was exact, but it was to the point of, it wasn't until I let go and forgot about my warts and just accepted them that they just disappeared one night. And a lot of that's very similar to a lot of the problems that we have in our daily life, she said. If you're festering on them and you're thinking about them, they just tend to just stay there with you. And if you obsess over them, you almost feel like they get bigger and bigger. But once you just kind of accept them as part of your life and who you are, and you just move on with your own life and you just start enjoying things, not allowing that wart to be part of your daily psychological neurosis, then suddenly one morning you wake up and it's just gone.
And we
have all experienced that. I had that experience with this wart on my hand where I just said, okay, I'm going to stop worrying about I'm going to stop avoiding holding girls' hands because I'm afraid they're going to feel that giant rough wart in the. I'm just going to start being me. And I woke up one morning and oh my gosh, it was just gone. It's not like it just faded away and slowly said goodbye. It walked out of the room and left. And you had a similar experience. And Clara, or I guess Clara, Ellie, and Juliet all had similar experiences where they had one or two particular warts that were really big and gross, and they really wanted to get them away because they were really embarrassing and they were holding them back, but they just weren't leaving no matter what we did.
Right. So quite literally, our warts, once we let go of trying to control it, it really just ran its course and then went away, and we all kind of outgrew our wart phases. And that's where we wanted to talk about that just being so much a testament to our lives. And let's start with saying we are not saying ignore the warts in your life. There are glaring warts you can't get around. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about, it may be that you're navigating poor health. Maybe you're navigating some rocky relationships. Maybe you're navigating frustrations with your work or with your finances. And it can be like a thorn in your side, or figuratively speaking, a wart. And it's big, it's ugly, and you want it to go away as quickly as possible.
But it's also really justified frustration because, this thing has done something to you. It's come in unto your life, undesired. You didn't want it. You didn't want the parts that have showed up, but they're not leaving.
And so the first thing is, I want to just touch on toxic positivity. We're not saying ignore it. Just act like it's not there. Just deny that it's there and it'll all go away.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, it's not just being so positive that you don't acknowledge. The reality is, acknowledge your reality. Like, take a reality check. Acknowledge what is real, what is right now. It is what it is. And stating that and having feelings around that is fine. I mean, there are times where I get frustrated about something or, whatever. I have whatever emotion. I'm going to use frustration and anger. I use that one a lot of times because that's one that I navigate a lot. And with that, I don't feel like I'm an angry person, but I can get angry. I also can let it go fast. And so that's something where I recognize there are times where I'm just frustrated. I'm ticked off. And sometimes you'll say, okay, well, what good is that doing you? And I'll say, I just need to be mad for a minute. And I will. And I can be angry for a minute. I can take a breather. When we have a kid that gets upset, we're not immediately saying, okay, how are we going to turn this around? How can we change this attitude? Sometimes it's, hey, let's give some space to be in a funk for a minute. Let's be frustrated. Let's be sad. Let's be mad. We just have had a situation where we lost a pet, and we had a very real reason to grieve, and we allow for grief. That's okay. It hurts. It's sad. It's hard. It's, we have anger, we have sadness, we have frustration, we have all these different emotions, and we want to embrace that feeling and sit with what that is. And we don't create a soup out of it for our lives. What we're looking for is to allow a feeling to come, acknowledge the reality of the feeling, and then actively make the choice to move through to the other side.
For me, it's kind of when that wart becomes the defining reality for why I can't fill in the blank.
Like a good example of this is when I was in high school, I had a friend who really struggled with being so high energy and so hyperactive that friends would get frustrated and stuff. And so he'd learned to kind of pull himself back and to monitor, and was really way more enjoyable to be around. Well, he went through testing, got diagnosed with ADHD. He went off the chain. He was so obnoxious, but he had his answer, his excuse. Well, it's because I'm ADHD. And I'm like, okay, I am all for identifying and diagnosing what may be going on with someone, but when that label becomes the excuse to sit in it, then you're no longer learning from the label. You're hiding behind it. And so if you're going to have a label, don't hide behind it. Learn from it to get the tools to work through the label.
Exactly. It's those signposts, and I think that's where we have a lot of confusion. Is we see that signpost as ADHD, and it can be a way to climb over that mountain or say, "This is my mountain."
Right. I'm going to just stand here and wave my flag.
Right. Look, here's my mountain, and this is as far as I'm going to go because this is my mountain. And you have to recognize is when you stick a flag on something like that and you say, this is my mountain, that's as far as I'm going to go. That's something I tell my girls is when they say, no, I can't. I won't go past this point. I look at them in the eye and I say, well, then get used to this taste that you have in your mouth because it's not going to change. The pains that you feel right now are going to be the same pains you're going to keep feeling. And you're not going to know how to move past them. And you're going to wonder why they keep coming around. And I'm telling you, you're going to have to work around that boulder at some point. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned with working through grief is, yes, give that space for, this person, they did this, they did that, it was not fair. And then is it, asking that question of, well, is this always true? Is this person always trying to hurt me at all times? Or do these situations constantly come up? Or is it blended with others? And being curious about the whole situation. And that can kind of help you climb your way out into that space of, moving on with your life. Instead of saying, well, this is the reason why I can't move on with my life. And until they apologize, I can't move on. Well, you just gave your entire life's purpose over to one person, and they have full control over you because you can't move on until they do something.
And you glossed over a key word there because you've said can't, and then you've even reworded how our children know they have to rephrase it. Because the first thing is, I can't go a step further. Then all they have to do is get a look from us, and they go, I won't go a step further, because it's not a can't, it's a won't, because we can do so much more when we set our minds to it. We can move through, but when we hear can't, we hear fixed mindset. We've stopped. We can't move forward. There's not a possibility here. We want to look for what does this make possible. So the first thing when seeing a wart is acknowledging the reality. It's a wart. Don't close your eyes. It's a wart. It sucks. It is ugly, nasty, whatever. It'd be very uninvited in your life. It is what it is. Okay, so where can we go from this? What can we learn? All of us, all 5 of us, have shared a story with our literal warts of getting over our own self-consciousness and moving past obsessing over it to where we had to stop looking at that wart for the day and look at the sunshine and the rainbow for the day. We had to choose to move past looking at our wart as our biggest thing in our world and open our eyes to the bigger world that was out there. And that's the first thing. Acknowledge it. You can acknowledge it. You can feel it. That's A-okay. And is oftentimes the first step in being able to move past it. You can't just jump straight, go through denial to get to the other side. It doesn't show. It'll continue to show up in your life, and you'll have warts pop up all over. Just like poor Ellie had a whole toe exploding with warts for a little bit because she was picking at them. And crazy enough, when you pick at the warts, they tend to spread. And isn't that another powerful analogy for life? When we pick at the negatives in our life, and again, I'm not saying toxic positivity, but I'm saying picking at those negatives in our lives, they tend to spread, and we tend to find affirmation of those negatives everywhere else we look.
And that's just the reality of until you're willing to move on and let go, the wart will stay there. And I think that's been true in every challenge that I've had in my life, is until I've said, okay, how can I manage myself around this situation rather than demanding the situation manage itself around me? How can I move around this boulder so that it's with the least amount of effort and energy just this go around? And once you have that curiosity and that challenge and you start to see that, okay, it's a little awkward at first, and I still remember, okay, I got the wart, but okay, I'm going to just try and touch her arm and see if she feels it. And okay, no reaction. Okay, cool. And just I'm lost. I'm not even thinking about the wart anymore. I'm thinking about her, and I've changed my attitude and I've changed my approach, and suddenly the dreamscape has gone from all this negativity and anger to, okay, I can do this and this is great. And it's one of those things, like I tell my girls, change doesn't just happen overnight. It's something that you wake up to one morning and realize it's happened to you. Mm-hmm. and it's and that's where I think it does kind of feel like it happens overnight, is you realize that all these steps I took, all this letting go and moving on, has led up to the fact that I got what I wanted in the end. My dream of having this thing go away, of leaving me alone, not pestering me in my life, has come to reality. And now I have the tools and know how to replicate that with other challenges that come up.
Sometimes it's a complete disappearance of the wart entirely. Sometimes it may leave a scar, or it may still be exactly the same, but your perspective has changed. And I want to so the next step on this is, after we feel it, it's letting go. And I want to say again on this, same lines with toxic positivity, people can say, well, just let it go. Like, how can I just drop everything? I recognize for me, it's hard for me to just let go and go to an empty blank space. No, the way I let go is I intentionally move toward something else. Oftentimes my letting go is shifting my focus for what I do want to hold on to. And so am I really letting go, or am I prioritizing what I hold on to? And so when it came to, for example, our warts and everything, I held on to, well, what other aspects of what other aspects of me are there beyond a wart? What am I proud of? What am I feeling confident in? And can I focus in those things? I was really big into art and was a gifted artist. When I'm sitting there drawing, the last thing on my mind, or anyone else's, is a wart that may be on my knee under the table. We're looking at the artwork that I'm doing. And so channeling my energy into something else allowed a release of the negative, not necessarily just letting go, dropping everything and keeping your mind blank, but looking at how you can recenter your focus.
It reminds me of the movie The Labyrinth, where the main character is running through trying to get her little brother, and she feels totally controlled by this king of these goblins.
King.
Yeah, and played by David Bowie, and she finally realizes that she can break all of these illusions, all these ideas that he's put in her head by not giving him that power. And she says those words, "You have no power over me." And I think we forget how much power we give over to these little things, especially when we're young. And sometimes they stay and they stick with us, and we feel these self-conscious lurches in our heart that keep us from showing up to life fully and engaging with people in a loving and caring way. And for me, one of those things that I have found a lot of success in managing and moving towards kind of the soul healing part of this is accepting and loving something for the beauty that it is, and the message that it's taught me. And that's always helped me kind of shift my mindset and my heart to a positive perspective of that challenging situation or person or ward in your life. It's like, well, you've held me back in a lot of ways, but you've also helped me grow to a point where I'm confident enough to move past you, and you have no more power over me, and I can move through life without you being a second thought anymore. And that's it doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that it completely goes away. It doesn't mean that I don't have to engage with it, but I can move through life without it turning my head and controlling when my head turns, as opposed to me deciding when I want to face it and when I want to approach it. And I think that gives a lot of healing. Is the more you kind of spin things in a positive manner of, okay, well, what does this make possible? What does this bring to light? Can help, at least it helps me find a path to that route.
So approach your warts with a growth mindset today. Our challenge to you is acknowledge the reality of what are the warts in your life right now. What are the things that are rubbing you the wrong way, that are things that you are embarrassed, ashamed about, or that are prickly or friction areas in your life. First off, acknowledge the reality of what it is. It's okay to feel emotions about it, and maybe it's okay to, for the first time, acknowledge the way it makes you feel. Do that. And then look for what's on the other side of that. Just like what Nathan was saying, what does this make possible? What can you learn from this? And how can you better channel your energy elsewhere? What can you let go of that's holding you back, that's holding you into this place of negativity, that you can take that same energy and channel it for the positive and redirect it? Sometimes it is a straight up distraction. Sometimes it's a very strict boundary and a hard line and a saying no. And sometimes it's just distraction for a while. And all of a sudden, it's not as big of a deal. It doesn't rock your world to the same level. Oftentimes we're told how we're such a happy family, and, we say, oh, you're such a beautiful family. And I always respond the same, when joy comes from the inside, that light shows. And we focus on finding the good and finding the joy. We still have all of the potential warts and friction in our lives. We can be surrounded by drama, and that doesn't mean we have to.
We often are.
We often are. And we sure as heck don't have to get mired up in it. Being surrounded by drama, being surrounded by negativity still does not mean it is a need for acceptance. We have to live in it. I am grateful that we choose actively every day to be the light and to find the light in our lives and to spread that to others. Because we all want to celebrate how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste.
1, 2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change.